This is the sixth part of the novel. For other parts, please refer to the description of this video or the video list on the channel. Lin Dong departed, leaving behind him a trail of contemplation and uncertainty. Meanwhile, Shangguan Mingyue remained rooted to the spot, her countenance a canvas of bewilderment, yet adorned with a captivating smile. It seemed that her liberation from the shackles of familial decree lay in the hands of Lin Dong. Was her aspiration merely to alter the course of familial edicts? Perhaps she could endeavor to assert herself as well? At this juncture, a sense of urgency enveloped Shangguan Mingyue as she pondered the matter. For years, she had resigned herself to relinquishing impractical aspirations. Even in the face of an arranged marriage imposed by her family, she had acquiesced, albeit begrudgingly. Alongside her discontent, she harbored a desire to break free from the shadows cast upon her by familial influence. However, as graduation loomed and the crucial moment of betrothal approached, fate unexpectedly brought Lin Dong into her sphere. His sudden display of prowess left her breathless, surpassing even the formidable aura emanating from the elders of her clan. He was a peerless prodigy. This realization dawned upon Shangguan Mingyue, accentuating the chasm in power despite their comparable ages. Lin Dong was undoubtedly groomed as the successor of a superlative force. While she stood as the heir of the second tier within the Shangguan lineage, with the aid of a first-tier inheritor from a superlative force, she might yet endeavor to defy the odds. Shangguan Weiwei, do you presume victory to be assured? Perhaps not. I shall prepare a grand gift for you. These silent thoughts echoed within Shangguan Mingyue's mind. 2 days elapsed, and Lin Dong ascended to the position of vice president within the martial arts society. Nonetheless, he maintained a respectful distance from Shangguan Mingyue, cognizant of her intentions. If she sought to enlist his aid in defying Qin Zhang, it mattered little to him, as he and Qin Zhang were already adversaries, liable to seek retribution at any moment. Assuming the mantle of vice president was, in essence, a gesture of contrition, driven by a lingering sense of guilt. Although Shangguan Mingyue had initiated the altercation, his intent was never to harm her. Yet, in his struggle to restrain his force, he had nearly inflicted fatal injury upon her. For a paragon of societal virtue such as himself, the notion of taking a life was profoundly unsettling. Thus, he regarded his appointment as vice president as a form of apology. As for the terms of restitution, that remained subject to his discretion. On this particular day, Lin Dong received a call from Yi Hong, indicating that a core member of the SCC wished to meet him. They had convened at the Golden Leaf Hotel. Lin Dong promptly requested leave from his duties and made his way to the hotel outside the premier presidential suite occupied by Yi Hong. Lin Dong rapped twice on the door. Moments later, Yi Hong welcomed him warmly, insisting he enter. Courtesy demanded such gestures, considering Lin Dong's burgeoning reputation within the SCC. Inviting Lin Dong into the SCC had proven to be one of Yi Hong's most astute decisions, ensuring additional security for his future inheritance of the Yi family legacy. Please, come in, Lin, Yi Hong urged. Lin Dong complied and stepped into the room, where another man awaited him on the sofa in the parlor. As Lin Dong entered, the man rose to greet him. Lin Dong, it's an honor to finally meet you. My name is Li Bin, a core member of the SCC and a close friend of Yi Hong's. Additionally, I hold some shares in the Golden Leaf Hotel, which you purchased. Li Bin smiled warmly as he appraised Lin Dong. Youthful. Remarkably so. Who could have imagined that such a young man could expel Qin Zhang from Jiancheng? Furthermore, Qin Zhang's conspicuous absence since then spoke volumes of this young man's formidable nature. Li, the pleasure is mine, Lin Dong reciprocated, sizing up Li Bin in return. He appeared to be in his early 30s, possessing an air of refinement and humility. A gentleman in every sense, he exuded an aura that was both soothing and refreshing, rather than imposing. The trio took their seats, and Li Bin poured a cup of tea for Lin Dong, inviting him to savor its flavor. Lin Dong, not wanting to appear impolite, took a sip, finding the tea to be subtly sweet and fragrant. Delightful, he remarked, feigning appreciation. In truth, he had little interest in tea, having learned such pleasantries from television. Having spent his holidays working odd jobs, he had never encountered such exquisite tea before. He had sampled red and green tea, finding them more or less interchangeable and failing to discern any significant differences. If connoisseurs of tea were privy to his thoughts, they would likely be aghast. This tea was no ordinary brew, its annual production was scarce, reserved only for dignitaries and elites. Indeed, it's excellent. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to Lin's graciousness that I have the opportunity to enjoy this tea today. Otherwise, I rarely get such chances. The big boss knew I was meeting with Lin Dong today, so he specially instructed me to bring this tea for you to taste. Li Bin smiled as he spoke. Big boss? Who's that? The founder of SCC? Lin Dong wondered silently, though he refrained from asking outright. If Li Bin went to such lengths to bring him this precious tea, there must be more to it than a simple statement. Indeed, it's quite exquisite. Lin Dong remarked, taking another sip with feigned appreciation. Lin, could you tell us about the incident that day? We're all quite curious about how you managed to best Qin Zhang, Yi Hong interjected, eager for details. Pausing from his tea, Li Bin also turned his attention to Lin Dong, expressing his own curiosity. Well, there's not much to say, really, Lin Dong replied modestly, giving a brief account of the events of that day, omitting the finale where he shattered Qin Zhang's alloy sword with a snap of his fingers. He felt it would be boastful to mention it. Lin Dong isn't being entirely truthful. How could you leave out the most spectacular part? I've heard that you held Qin Zhang's sword between two fingers and effortlessly shattered the alloy sword he'd carried for years. That's no mean feat. Li Bin interjected. Lin Dong internally sighed. If everyone already knew, why bother making him say it? Li, you misunderstand. The most remarkable part was the battle between Pu Juan and Shan Shu. I merely added a finishing touch, Lin Dong humbly deflected. Li Bin fell silent. He knew of Shan Shu, a veteran of the Tiger List, but he had never heard of Pu Juan, the expert by Lin Dong's side. The battle between the two Tiger List experts was indeed thrilling. But could Shan Shu shatter Qin Zhang's alloy sword with a snap of his fingers? Probably not. That material was developed through cutting-edge technology. This was why they valued Lin Dong. If he were merely a follower of a Tiger List expert, they wouldn't have gone to such lengths to meet him in person. As the conversation meandered through various trivial topics, all three sought to build rapport with Lin Dong. Given Lin Dong's displayed strength, even Li Bin, a core member of SCC, felt somewhat intimidated. He knew that directly confronting Qin Zhang would be a risky venture. Moreover, he ranked among the leading members of SCC, most of whom paled in comparison to the 8 titans of the T Group. Lin Dong found the conversation tedious. He wasn't accustomed to bantering with such influential figures. While others may perceive him as such, he didn't view himself as an important figure. Yet sensing that the time was nearing its end, Li Bin addressed Lin Dong. Lin Dong, my visit today is not merely a social call. It's at the behest of the big boss. As expected, Lin Dong noted Li Bin's earlier mention of the big boss and inquired, Oh? Who is this big boss? And what's the matter? Yi, I've just joined SCC and I'm not familiar with many aspects. The big boss goes by the name Zhuge Sangqiong. He's one of the 3 founders of SCC and possesses the greatest strength and prestige, Li Bin explained, proceeding to elucidate Zhuge Sangqiong's intentions. In essence, Zhuge Sangqiong sought Lin Dong's assistance, but the specifics and timing were yet to be determined, likely within 6 months. Zhuge Sangqiong and Zhao Shidao, a fellow Tiger List expert, were once like brothers, growing up together in the same circle. Both were top figures in their field, co-founding the T Group and enjoying immense popularity. However, their relationship was ruptured by the appearance of a woman, Mu Rongqingda. She was an extraordinary beauty, captivating an entire era. She managed to capture the hearts of both Zhuge Sangqiong and Zhao Shidao, the 2 pinnacle figures of the younger generation. Mu Rongqingda was the youngest daughter of the Mu Rong family of Kyoto, initially deemed incapable of surviving past 18 due to congenital defects. However, she was later taken away by a master. When she returned to Kyoto at the age of 22, she immediately garnered admiration from the younger generation. Even Zhuge Sangqiong and Zhao Shidao, at the height of their fame, were no exception. The 2 agreed to compete fairly for her affection, pledging that regardless of her choice, the other would gracefully accept defeat. However, fate saw fit for Mu Rongqingda to enter into a 10-year agreement. She would depart for 10 years, and upon her return, she would marry the foremost figure among the younger generation. Following Zhuge Sangqiong's failed bid for leadership within the T Group, he departed for the Devil's Capital and, together with the twin titans of the Devil's Capital, established the SCC, effectively dividing the realm with the T Group. Zhuge Sangqiong remained unaware of how Mu Rongqingda would determine the foremost figure among the younger generation. Yet now, with the T Group solely under Zhao Shidao's command while the SCC's decisions were made by 3 individuals, he had already fallen behind in this aspect. Upon the arrival of the 10-year covenant, Zhuge Sangqiong hopes that Lin Dong can assist him. Considering Lin Dong's current demonstrated prowess and the hidden forces behind him, he could unquestionably become Zhuge Sanqiang's right-hand man. Lin Dong was astonished after grasping the ins and outs of the matter. Zhuge Sanqiang is not only the founder of SCC but also the founder of the T Group? Moreover, two titans actually turned against each other for a woman? Such melodramatic plotlines actually exist in reality? He thought they only appeared in television dramas. What kind of woman could make two top-notch figures vie for her, even at the risk of enmity? Lin Dong was genuinely curious. What does Morong Chinga look like? Is she truly comparable to a celestial being? Brother Li, have you ever met Morong Chinga? What kind of woman is she? What could make two top figures of the younger generation sway for her, even to the extent of turning against each other? Lin Dong asked with curiosity. I'm ashamed to admit that during my time in the Devil's capital, Morong Chinga didn't stay in Kyoto for long, so I never had the chance to meet her. It's truly regrettable, Li Bin responded. Not only Lin Dong but even Li Bin was quite curious about Morong Chinga. So, how should I assist? There's no specific plan or protocol. What should I do? Lin Dong inquired. Brother Lin Dong, there's no need to fret. Competing for the top spot among the younger generation boils down to comparing forces and individual strengths. Perhaps Morong Chinga will demand a duel between the two at that time, and it will be up to the big boss himself. There's no need for you to intervene, but asking for your assistance is just a precaution, Li Bin reassured. This sounds promising. Not having to intervene directly but still witnessing the showdown between Morong Chinga and two pinnacle figures. Alright then. I accept this task. Just notify me when the time comes, Lin Dong replied. As a senior member of SCC, he must uphold the dignity of the big boss, and he also needs this status to expand his influence. Brother Lin Dong is indeed straightforward. From now on, you are already a core member of SCC. This is the big boss's decision. Later, I will send you some of the rights and obligations of core members. Being a core member is different from being a senior member. You are now part of SCC's upper echelon and can participate in making major decisions, Li Bin informed. Ah? Is this the promotion to a core member? So soon? Without any cost? In truth, Lin Dong still wanted to spend some money. Being a big spender doesn't hurt. Unfortunately, Zhao Xian's spending isn't impressive, which leaves him feeling frustrated. Meanwhile, Yi Hong looked at Lin Dong with envy. A core member? How many senior members are stuck at this step? He wasn't particularly concerned about advancing to a senior member. As a businessman, the effort required to advance to a senior member didn't seem proportionate to the rewards. But becoming a core member was an aspiration he had dreamt of. Why did Lu Chen charge at Xinjiang despite knowing he wasn't his match? Wasn't it just to impress the three bosses? To be promoted to a core member? Even if he couldn't win and faced the risk of severe injury or death, he had to go for it. Such as the allure of being a core member. Once he ascends to a core member, he can leverage some of SCC's power. This is the right of a core member. Then his family's crisis would be resolved. Even if his grandfather is no longer around, no one would dare to touch the Lu family or Jiang City. Because if anyone dares to, they would be against the entire SCC, and no one dares to do so. As soon as they do, they are enemies of the entire SCC. Lin Dong has only just entered SCC? He's already promoted to a core member. One can only imagine how many senior members would envy him for this. Before leaving, Li Bin pulled Lin Dong into a group with only 15 members. That's SCC's core member group, with 15 members, including 3 founders of SCC and 12 core members. With Lin Dong's addition, there are now 13 core members. Core members are already at the top level of SCC, and many important matters require core member votes. The biggest difference between SCC and the T Group is that while the T Group is governed solely by Zhao Shidao, SCC's decisions require core member votes when there are 2 dissenting voices among the 3 bosses. This illustrates the value of core members. However, internal discord also exists within SCC. As soon as Lin Dong joined the group, someone asked, Li Bin, is there a new member? Why haven't I heard any news? It was Lu Mang, a local of the Devil's capital and one of SCC's 12 core members, as well as an indispensable ally of the twin titans of the Devil's capital. Is this the big boss's decision? Who is he to exercise such privilege? Lu Mang questioned. Jiang City's Lin Dong. Li Bin replied. Lu Mang, in the city by the river to the east? Boldly confront Qin Zhang, and even drive Qin Zhang out of the city by the river? Li Bin, is that not the case? Lu Mang, impressive. Lin Dong also sent a message. Lin Dong, I am Lin Dong, and I kindly request everyone's favor. Lu Mang, Lin Dong, isn't it? We cannot afford to accommodate you. Your current reputation resounds throughout the circle. This situation. Whom have I offended? Seems like the atmosphere within SCC isn't very harmonious. Sure enough, wherever there are people, there is a rivers and lakes. Lin Dong wondered if he had already been drawn into the internal struggles of SCC. As soon as he entered, someone started arguing with him. Li Bin, Lin Dong, ignore him, he's just a mad dog, biting whoever he catches. Lu Mang, Li Bin, dare you say that again? Li Bin, mad dog. Lu Mang, you. Seeing the two about to start fighting, someone finally stepped forward to mediate. Alright. Alright. We're all family, why quarrel? Don't embarrass the newcomer. Lin Dong, welcome to join our big family. Then many people also voiced their welcome to Lin Dong, but whether it was sincere or not was uncertain. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Not knowing anyone, and Lin Dong didn't know what to say, so he decided to ignore it, lest he be targeted again later. Li Bin also didn't inform Lin Dong about the situation inside SCC. In the blink of an eye, it was the weekend again. This weekend happened to be free, and Aunt Shoei's injury hadn't healed yet. It was estimated that she wouldn't be able to return to Xiqing until next week. Last week, he had promised Sun Si to visit her home, but it was delayed due to Aunt Shoei's situation. Since there was nothing much to do this week, he decided to pay a visit. Although he didn't want to go, but since he had promised, Lin Dong would still fulfill it. Visiting in this way would definitely lead to misunderstandings from Sun Si's family, and Sun Si, knowing that it wasn't quite appropriate for him to come this way, still invited him, indicating that she might have some intentions. Ah! Even outstanding men have their troubles. Lin Dong felt that he should learn to refuse, although he was gradually revealing more of his strength, and more women were surrounding him. Han Shiyun counted as 1, Lu Xiaoxiao counted as 1, Zhao Xin counted as 1, Sun Si counted as 1. This count startled Lin Dong. For exceptional beauties were interested in him. How should he choose? This kind of multiple-choice question is only for children. Ah! Can only take it step by step. His biggest flaw now is his inability to refuse. For example, with Shangguan Mingyue, it wasn't entirely his fault. Clearly, the other party attacked him first, and he only reacted instinctively, yet he ended up apologizing. Lin Dong pondered for a moment. This kind of character seems to have originated from his time with Jiang Shan in the past. As long as Jiang Shan requested, he would try his best to fulfill it, never refusing. This was formed over 4 years of being a licking dog and still needs time to change. Towards women, especially beautiful women, Lin Dong felt that he couldn't harden his heart. Could it be that he has the potential to be a scumbag? Temporarily setting aside his doubts, Lin Dong dialed Sun Si's phone, telling her that he would accompany her tomorrow, Saturday. Sun Si was naturally ecstatic. The next day, Lin Dong received a call from Sun Si while still in bed, asking him what time they would depart. Lin Dong glanced at the time. Damn, it wasn't even 6 yet, did this girl not sleep all night? He actually guessed right. Since receiving Lin Dong's call, Sun Si had been excitedly awake all night. In her heart, Lin Dong was like the ideal lover of the purple cloud fairy, a heroic figure, coming to save her entire family on a 7-colored cloud just like Lu Xiaoxiao. When a girl is at her most desperate, suddenly having a man appear by her side to rescue her, is definitely the most memorable. Moreover, Lin Dong is excellent in all aspects, which has a fatal attraction to naive girls. At 7 in the morning, Lin Dong got up and drove to the gate of the Communication University. Sun Si had been waiting there for a long time. Because it was Saturday today, there were many people driving luxury cars to pick others up at the gate of the Communication University. Students were coming and going in an endless stream. Basically, those who came to pick up in cars were middle-aged men, and young ones were rare, most of them with big bellies. They should all be these students' fathers. As for whether they are biological fathers or sugar daddies, only the parties involved know. Sun Si stood at the gate of the Communication University, waiting for a car. Even in the Communication University where goddesses were everywhere, she was still a beautiful scenery. Tall, beautiful, and with a good figure, she was simply fair-skinned and beautiful with long legs. Moreover, she was wearing a white dress today, attracting the attention of everyone around her. Today, Sun Si had carefully dressed up, even applied a little makeup, just to leave a good impression on Lin Dong. Many bosses who came to pick up in luxury cars, upon seeing Sun Si, suddenly felt that the people they were picking up weren't as attractive, and several people driving Mercedes-Benz cars came forward to ask Sun Si where she was going and offered to give her a ride. As for where they would take her after getting in the car, everyone can imagine for themselves. But all were rejected by Sun Si. Seeing many alumni getting into these bosses' cars for a bit of resources, a bit of money, Sun Si naturally knew what these people were up to. Thinking of the chubby and even bald old men who had just asked her, she felt a wave of nausea. The more she saw these alumni going into the cars of these so-called big bosses for a bit of resources, a bit of money, the more she felt Lin Dong was good. If it weren't for Lin Dong's help of 1 billion, she might also have walked the same path for her family and these alumni. And even if she did, what she got would only be a drop in the bucket. So Lin Dong was destined to be the man she could never forget in her life. Sun Si was deep in thought about Lin Dong when a voice sounded behind her and tapped her shoulder. Si. Who are you waiting for here? Sun Si recognized the voice as her fellow student from the same department, Umu Jun. Together with Sun Si, they were known as the 4 leading actresses of the performance department. Umu Jun was much shorter than Sun Si, but she was very cute. She perfectly embodied the concept of being delicate and petite, the kind of woman who could easily arouse a man's protective instinct. No one. Jun, where are you going? Sun Si asked. I'm waiting for my dad to pick me up. Are you going home? Umu Jun replied. Yes. I'm waiting for a friend to pick me up. A boyfriend? No. Just a good friend. Sun Si nervously replied. Why are you so nervous? I'm not going to steal your boyfriend. Umu Jun said with a smile. Lin Dong arrived at the gate of the Communication University, naturally causing a commotion. Look! What kind of sports car is that? So cool! Damn, a Bugatti Veyron? Damn, does Jiangcheng actually have this kind of car? So impressive! Who is it here to pick up? So lucky! If only it were here to pick me up, I'd love to be the center of attention for once. Is it here to pick up Sun Si and Umu Jun? They're waiting over there. Oh no! My heart is breaking, another goddess is taken by a pig. How do you know it's a pig? I think it must be a handsome man. The power of the Bugatti Veyron was extraordinary. Compared to the Bugatti Veyron, the Mercedes-Benz and other cars parked at the main entrance were like bicycles. Lin Dong parked the car directly in front of Sun Si and Umu Jun. The car window rolled down. Student Sun, let's go! Lin Dong shouted from inside the car. Seeing such a cool sports car parked in front of her, Sun Si thought it was another boss trying to strike up a conversation. It wasn't until Lin Dong called her that she realized it was him. For Lin Dong, who could easily come up with $1 billion to help her family, driving such a car was only natural. Oh! Coming! Sun Si was about to get in the car, but Umu Jun grabbed her hand and then leaned on the passenger side window herself. What's your name? Are you Si's boyfriend? Why haven't I heard Si mention you before? How long have you been together? Umu Jun curiously asked Lin Dong several questions. Seeing a cute girl leaning on the passenger side window and asking him several questions in a row, Lin Dong felt a little overwhelmed. Classmate, Si and I are good friends. I'm going home for the weekend and giving her a ride along the way. Good friends? I know what you rich second-generation guys are thinking. Let me tell you. Si is my best friend. If you dare to bully her, I won't let you off. Umu Jun said, raising her small fist. Jun. We really are just good friends. Sun Si, who was behind, pulled Umu Jun and said. Alright, I won't disturb you anymore. But Si, as a girl, you have to learn to protect yourself before you understand the other person. You must maintain your bottom line, understand? Umu Jun said to Sun Si. It felt a bit awkward for such words to come from a petite and cute girl's mouth. Sun Si blushed at Umu Jun's words. I understand. Jun, I'm leaving now, bye. Sun Si quickly got into Lin Dong's car, afraid that Umu Jun would say something strange again. Lin Dong stepped on the gas pedal, and the Bugatti Veyron kicked up a cloud of dust and disappeared from the gate of the Communication University. Oh no! The goddess' son was taken away by the Bugatti Veyron. Did you see who was driving the Bugatti Veyron? How old is he? It seems to be a middle-aged man. And he's bald. Oh no, the goddess was really taken by a pig. Nonsense. I clearly saw a young handsome guy driving. Uemu Jun looked somewhat thoughtful as she watched the direction Sun Si left. At this moment, a Rolls-Royce Phantom appeared in front of her. The appearance of the Rolls-Royce Phantom did not attract much attention from the students, except for some who knew about cars. Others rarely recognized this model. Although this car also had a starting price in the millions, its appearance was too low-key and couldn't compare to the flashy Bugatti Veyron. With the Bugatti's appearance just now, the Phantom naturally couldn't make much of a stir. Uemu Jun opened the door and got in. Inside the car sat a middle-aged man in his 40s. Dad! Uemu Jun called out. Yeah. Jun, do you know the owner of the car just now? Uemu Jun's father, Yu Chuanxiong, asked. I don't know. But my friend does. It should be her new boyfriend. What's wrong? Dad. Do you know him? Is he a scumbag? If he is, I can't let C jump into the fire pit. Uemu Jun said. I don't know. But I want to get to know him. When can you invite your friend and her boyfriend out for dinner? Yu Chuanxiong said. Why do you want to meet him? Isn't he just a rich second generation? Uemu Jun asked with some confusion. Jun, you can't judge everything by its appearance. That car is not simple, it's a limited edition Bugatti Veyron, only 8 in the world. And the price is now over 80 million. How much? 80 million? So expensive? Uemu Jun was also surprised. Even though her family was also a well-known wealthy family in Jiangcheng, the price of 80 million for a car was still a bit hard to accept. So getting to know him won't hurt. Business is business. The more friends, the more paths. Maybe there will be a chance for cooperation in the future. Dad! Can you stop talking about business all the time? I've finally come to pick me up once, and you're talking business with my classmates. You don't care about me at all. Uemu Jun said somewhat unhappily. Alright. Dad won't talk about business. Let Dad see if you've lost weight. The Rolls-Royce Phantom slowly departed. I just saw a middle-aged man sitting in the car with the moon goddess emblem on it. Is it true? It's absolutely true, I vouch for it with my integrity. Forget it. You still have integrity? Really? I swear by the light. Oh dear, 2 of the 4 aspiring actresses in the acting department have been snagged. How can one live like this? Young man. Work hard. If you strive now, perhaps your girlfriend is still in kindergarten. On the Bugatti Chiron. Lindong, don't mind. She's my friend named Yu Mujuan, she likes to joke around. Why would I mind? Do I seem like a narrow-minded person? Lindong replied with a smile. Lindong, thank you for accompanying me home today. And thank you for lending me that billion. If it weren't for that money, I really don't know what my family would have become. Sun Si said, her voice quivering softly. Hey! Son, don't cry. Lindong didn't know why, but he dreaded women crying, especially such beautiful women. He truly couldn't bear it. Lindong, what if I can't repay that money? Sun Si suddenly asked. Son, to me, that money is nothing. If you really can't repay, how about offering yourself? Lindong felt the atmosphere was a bit heavy, so he teased. Really? Sun Si lifted her head, asking earnestly. Lindong. Afterwards, neither of them spoke. Sun Si's cheeks flushed, gazing out the window lost in thought. Lindong had intended to lighten the mood, but instead, it became even more solemn. How to proceed with this conversation? There's no way to proceed. Continuing will lead to trouble. Yancheng is a municipal-level city, although it's not as prominent as provincial-level cities like Jiangcheng, it's much more prosperous compared to Lindong's hometown of Shuqing, a county-level city. After over 2 hours, Lindong arrived in Yancheng. However, as it was his first visit, he felt uncomfortable arriving empty-handed. Lin Dong wandered around Yangcheng and bought many things before finally following Sun Si's directions to her residential compound. Sun Si lived in an upscale residential compound in Yangcheng. With Lin Dong's billion yuan injection, Sun Weicheng paid off all his debts and returned to their original house. Upon entering the compound, Lin Dong's car caught the attention of the two security guards in the security room. Although they hadn't seen Lin Dong's car before, they didn't stop him but instead let him pass directly. "Brother Zhang, isn't this car not from our compound? Shouldn't we inquire and register it?" a young security guard asked. "Xiaochen, you're new here. You need to have an eye for these things. Please enlighten me, Brother Zhang. Here, have a cigarette." The young security guard was obviously new. The older security guard took the cigarette, took a puff, and said, "To do this job well, I, Brother Zhang, specifically studied car recognition. This is an upscale residential compound. I let cars worth over 500,000 pass directly. Only cars worth less than 500,000 are registered." "Why is that?" the young security guard asked. "You're clueless. This is an upscale residential compound. Who would buy a house worth millions or even tens of millions and drive a car worth only a couple 100,000? But for cars worth over 500,000, it's different. If we accidentally provoke those wealthy second-generation folks with bad tempers, do you think you'll keep your job?" "I see. The car just now looked so cool, it must be worth over 500,000, so Brother Zhang let it pass directly." "Worth over 500,000? Do you know what brand that car was just now?" "I don't know. But it looked really cool. Is it worth millions?" "I've seen it online. It's a world-famous car, the Bugatti Chiron." "Do you know how much it costs?" "How much?" 30 million, the older security guard said, holding up 3 fingers. 30 million? "How much is that?" the young security guard asked, his mouth gaping. He was clearly shocked by the price. 30 million for a car? It was beyond his imagination. 30 million. And that's just the starting price. Some limited editions are at least 50 million or more. How about that? Shocked, right? Who dares to stop such a car? Encounter one with a good temper, it's fine. But if you encounter one with a bad temper, enduring a scolding is light, you might even get slapped, and you'll have to bear it. Maybe even lose your job. Yes. Brother Zhang is right, I've learned my lesson. Please take care of me in the future, Brother Zhang. Here, have a cigarette." The young security guard handed over a whole pack of cigarettes. After parking the car, Sun Si led Lin Dong into one of the buildings and then took the elevator to the 22nd floor. Since Sun Si received Lin Dong's call yesterday, her parents should be at home now. Walking up to her own door, Sun Si took out her keys and opened the door. Upon entering, Sun Si was stunned. What's going on? Why are there so many people? Lin Dong followed behind Sun Si, also stunned upon entering. They saw about 10 people sitting in the living room, chatting, and some voices were coming from the kitchen. These people were all relatively close relatives of the Sun family, such as uncles, aunts, cousins, etc. All gathered here today. Si's back. Sun Si's father, Sun Weicheng, stood up from the sofa and greeted Sun Si and Lin Dong. He was sitting right across from the entrance. "Dad, what's going on here?" Sun Si asked. Sun Weicheng didn't answer his daughter's question but said, "This must be Lin Dong, right? Come in and have a seat. Since you're here, just stay. Why did you buy so many things? We're not lacking at home." "Hello, uncle," Lin Dong exclaimed. Sun Weicheng casually sized up Lin Dong, a very decent young man. Polite, good-looking, and his family background was impeccable, without the arrogance of those wealthy heirs. Carrying the gifts, Lin Dong followed Sun Weicheng into the living room, leaving Sun Si standing alone at the entrance, her thoughts in disarray. She probably guessed her parents' intentions. They must think that Lin Dong is her boyfriend, which she also claimed. Knowing that she brought Lin Dong home today, inviting these close relatives over, was not only to introduce them to her daughter's boyfriend but also to boast a bit. After all, for Lin Dong to readily provide $1 billion to help their family, that's not something ordinary people can do. Sun Si walked awkwardly into the hall, still pondering how to explain things to Lin Dong. Originally, she thought it would just be her parents, her sister, and Lin Dong having dinner together to express gratitude. But now, so many people had come. Would Lin Dong be unhappy? Would he be angry and leave? Sun Si felt nervous, especially since she hadn't known Lin Dong for long and didn't understand the habits of such a super wealthy second generation. Hopefully not. He usually seemed quite polite. But if he's not accustomed to this kind of scene and leaves in a huff, what should I do? With so many relatives here, how can I face them? Sun Si suddenly had a lot on her mind. Just afraid that Lin Dong might be unhappy. At this moment, Lin Dong was enduring the successive inquiries from Sun Si's aunts and uncles. Where do you study? How many people are there in your family? What do your parents do? How many siblings do you have? These people obviously didn't know that it was thanks to Lin Dong lending $1 billion that Sun Weicheng was able to get out of trouble. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to ask Lin Dong so many questions. Who could easily produce $1 billion yuan? The family must have considerable strength. They only thought that Sun Weicheng had some ability to recover from being cheated out of so much money. Lin Dong felt like he was about to collapse. These people apparently regarded him as Sun Si's boyfriend. He couldn't directly state the truth, he just said his family ran a small business. Hearing that Lin Dong's family ran a small business, these people lost interest and looked down on him. They thought of small businesses like fruit stalls or convenience stores, which couldn't compare to their big businesses. Lin Dong just wanted to attach himself to the Sun family's prosperity. Taking a glance at Sun Si, Lin Dong noticed her looking at him, but her eyes held a pleading look. Lin Dong sighed inwardly and continued to endure the interrogation. At this moment, Sun Si's sister, Sun Si, opened the door of her room, and several young people came out, ranging from 17 or 18 to 12 or 13. These were Sun Si's cousins and nephews. Sister! Sun Si called out. Sister Si! Sister Si! The others also echoed. Sun Si responded to each of them. After they came out, they looked at Lin Dong with curious eyes. Fortunately, Sun Si's house was spacious enough, with the living room alone being about 50 or 60 square meters. Even with nearly 20 people in the living room, it didn't feel crowded. Sun Weicheng watched Lin Dong facing the inquiries from so many people without the slightest impatience, silently nodding. Although Lin Dong lent $1 billion to their family, allowing them to overcome their difficulties, if Lin Dong were an uneducated, arrogant, and ignorant rich second generation, Sun Weicheng wouldn't want to entrust his daughter to him. After all, this concerned his daughter's lifelong happiness, but he couldn't quickly repay Lin Dong the $1 billion, and he was also worried about what to do if Lin Dong was indeed an uneducated and arrogant rich second generation. Fortunately, seeing Lin Dong's behavior so far, Sun Weicheng was quite satisfied. A super-rich second generation who could face the inquiries of so many people and answer humbly and gracefully proved that Lin Dong's character was quite good, which eased his worries. Lin Dong expressed that he was very tired. Extremely tired. If he had known about this situation earlier, he wouldn't have come no matter what. People who haven't experienced the power of these aunts and uncles don't know how exhausting it is. Lin Dong felt more tired than if he had fought with Qin Zheng again. With everyone bombarding him with questions one after another, Lin Dong felt his head buzzing. The worst part was that these people seemed to look down on him somewhat, which made him helpless. He really wanted to tell them actually, I'm the world's richest person. But even if he said it, no one would believe him. Finally finishing the meal, Lin Dong, due to his improved physical condition, didn't feel drunk at all despite being toasted many times. Instead, most of the people toasting him ended up almost passed out. In the afternoon, Lin Dong had originally planned to leave, but because of the alcohol, the Sun family insisted that Lin Dong stay. Helpless, Lin Dong pretended to be a little drunk and was eventually taken to Sun Si's room to sleep for the afternoon. He really feared that these people would come back in the afternoon for another round, which would drive him crazy. In the evening, Lin Dong was awakened by Sun Si, who informed him that it was time for dinner. Upon rising, Lin Dong found that besides himself and Sun Si, there was no one else in the house. Tonight, we have dinner reservations at the hotel. They have already gone, leaving just the two of us. Sun Si remarked, in that case, let's go. Lin Dong said, preparing to leave. Lin Dong! Sun Si suddenly exclaimed. Yes? Lin Dong turned to look at Sun Si. Today, thank you, Sun Si said softly. Why thank me? I should be thanking you instead. Your family is so warm, and I rarely experience such homely meals, Lin Dong chuckled. I know you're just trying to comfort me. As someone from a wealthy background like you must find it uncomfortable to be surrounded by inquiries and disdain. Yet, you've endured it all for my sake. I'm truly grateful to you. Hearing Sun Si's words, Lin Dong felt somewhat embarrassed. Well, it's nothing really, son. We're friends, after all. Friends should help each other, Lin Dong replied. Sun Si hugged Lin Dong from behind, as she was also 172 meters tall, resting her head on his shoulder, tears streaming down her face. Lin Dong, why are you so good to me? I've truly fallen for you, what should I do? Feeling Sun Si's tenderness, Lin Dong began to feel conflicted. Son, please don't do this, Lin Dong hastily said, fearing he might lose control. The last time Han Shuryun had flirted with him, his temper had flared up, and now Sun Si? Am I supposed to be a saint? Why do you all like to play with fire like this? Lin Dong, let me hug you properly, okay? Don't speak, just let me hold you quietly, Sun Si said. Hearing Sun Si's request, Lin Dong's anger gradually subsided. He remained silent, simply experiencing the warmth of Sun Si's body. About 10 minutes later, Sun Si released Lin Dong, wiping the traces of tears from her face. Thank you, Lin Dong. Let's go, my dad and the others must be worried, Sun Si said, walking ahead. Lin Dong followed behind with a wry smile. After descending the stairs, Lin Dong drove Sun Si to the hotel, the only 5-star hotel in Goat City. Those who dined there were prominent figures in Goat City, representing the highest level of treatment. The two arrived at the private room reserved by Sun Weicheng. It was quite spacious, even with 3 tables, it didn't feel crowded. Everyone was already seated, waiting for Lin Dong and Sun Si. Si, why took you so long? Everyone's been waiting for you too. Sun Si's second aunt said. Although Lin Dong had behaved well, his poor family background made many people look down on him. Naturally, there was some complaint about their lateness. Moreover, with this son-in-law, Sun Weicheng's future help to these relatives might be limited. This was the main reason they disliked Lin Dong. Good-looking and from a prestigious university, if Sun Weicheng accepted him as his son-in-law, their interests would definitely be greatly reduced. Second aunt, sorry, we were delayed by traffic on the way. Hurry, sit down. I'll call the waiter to serve the dishes, Chen Sualian said. Lin Dong and Sun Si sat close together. Soon the waiters began serving the dishes one after another. Finally, during the meal, no one toasted Lin Dong again. It seemed that Lin Dong's capacity for alcohol had frightened them all during lunch. Everyone was enjoying the meal. Halfway through dinner, Sun Weicheng stood up with his wine glass and said, Today, I want to toast Lin Dong. Lin Dong quickly stood up with his glass, saying, Uncle, you're too polite. I toast to you. Lin Dong, please sit down first, let me finish speaking. I think everyone knows about the incident where I was cheated some days ago. And I can quickly get back on my feet thanks to Lin Dong's help. Without Lin Dong's 1 billion, I think I, Sun Weicheng, would never have a chance to make a comeback in my life. So I must toast to you, Lin Dong. You saved our family. Thank you. As Sun Weicheng's words fell, the whole room fell silent. Everyone looked at Lin Dong in disbelief, their faces filled with incredulity. They couldn't believe that it was Lin Dong who had provided the money to help Sun Weicheng through the difficulties, and the amount was as high as 1 billion? These relatives, who had some wealth thanks to Sun Weicheng over the years, were quite affluent. Some were worth 3 to 5 million, even the less prosperous had 1 or 2 million. But 1 billion was astronomical to them. Did Sun Weicheng have a net worth of 1 billion in total? It was unlikely. They were aware of Sun Weicheng being deceived by his business partners some days ago, and they were actively trying to help. After all, if Sun Weicheng fell, their lives wouldn't be easy either. They all rose and fell together. And now, this handsome and polite college student Lin Dong could produce 1 billion to help Sun Weicheng? How old was he? He looked to be only around 20 or 21. With such a young age, possessing 1 billion in funds was virtually impossible to earn on his own. It must have been given by his family. For a family to be able to produce 1 billion in funds for their children anytime, anywhere, without even asking about its purpose, how wealthy were they? This was what Lin Dong referred to as his family doing some small business? If this was considered small business, what did that make them? Trash collectors? Several people who had mocked Lin Dong at noon blushed and felt embarrassed. They were worried that if Lin Dong became Sun's son-in-law, their interests would be reduced. It was utterly ridiculous. Would a rich second generation from such a family come to be a son-in-law? Moreover, if the Sun family could marry into such a super aristocratic family, wouldn't their relatives also benefit? Perhaps one day, thanks to Lin Dong and Sun Si, their relatives might become worth tens of millions. At this moment, everyone's gaze towards Lin Dong changed. From disdain and ridicule, it turned into flattery. This is the power of money. In their eyes, Lin Dong went from being a loser who wanted to rely on the Sun family to a tree even the Sun family wanted to lean on naturally. His status underwent a change. At this point, Lin Dong also arrogantly said, "Uncle, you don't have to be polite. Si and I are good friends, and actually, $1 billion is nothing to me." The people present were somewhat numb. To be able to regard $1 billion as 10,000, only super-rich second generations like Lin Dong could do that. This billion may not mean much to you, but it's of great significance to our Sun family. Without this billion, our Sun family would have fallen apart. Everyone here should thank you, Sun Weicheng glanced at some of the people present and said. He noticed everyone's attitude towards Lin Dong today. The reason he didn't intervene was to see their reactions after revealing the truth. How dare they look down on Lin Dong? Did they not think that without Lin Dong's help, they wouldn't be happily sitting here eating? Go home and cry. Yes, Lin Sha, thank you for saving our entire family. I toast to you. I'll drink first. You drink as you wish. Sun Si's second aunt quickly stood up, holding her glass towards Lin Dong. She had been the most enthusiastic since noon and had been finding fault with Lin Dong in various ways. Sun Weicheng didn't have a son to inherit the Sun family's lineage, but she did. Therefore, despite Sun Weicheng being the most promising person in the Sun family, the old man in the Sun family favored the second son more because he had given birth to a son for the Sun family. Sun Weicheng was also a filial person. With the old man in the middle, the second son's family benefited the most among these relatives. They even secretly hinted to the old man in the Sun family that if Sun Weicheng were to give all his property to his two daughters in the future, they would have no connection to the Sun family. They wanted the old man to demand a share of the property for them. Now that Lin Dong's identity as a super-rich second generation was exposed, she was the happiest. Lin Dong definitely wouldn't care about Sun Weicheng's property, and he would even help the Sun family grow. By then, he would get even more. Maybe one day, her family could also have assets worth tens of millions, and she wouldn't have to work so hard. Being a rich lady would be much better. Thinking of this, she looked at Lin Dong with a smile on her face, like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law, becoming happier the more she looked. Lin Sha, thank you for your generosity. It's thanks to you that our Sun family can make a comeback. I toast to you too. I'll drink first, you drink as you wish. The adults at the two tables all toasted Lin Dong. One by one, the most basic change was in how they addressed him. At noon, they still called him Lin Dong or Xiaolin, but now they all called him Lin Sha. Moreover, at noon, each person had to toast Lin Dong a glass of wine, and Lin Dong had to finish it before they would stop. But now, they all just drank it themselves. Lin Dong could drink a little or not at all, and they wouldn't dare say anything. This was the change in status and position. The dinner continued. Lin Dong had become the center of attention at the dinner. Everyone was consciously or unconsciously respecting Lin Dong. Whatever he liked to eat, the dish would linger in front of him for a long time. After a meal full of joy, as it was about to end, the door was pushed open. Everyone thought it was a waiter, but a rough voice sounded, obviously not related to the staff. President's son. So you're here? It took me quite a while to find you. When Sun Weicheng heard this voice, his face turned ugly. The person who came and looked fierce, and behind him were a few followers, obviously not good people. After entering, he slapped Sun Weicheng on the shoulder so hard that Sun Weicheng's chopsticks fell to the ground from his right hand. Lu Yong, what are you doing? Today is our family gathering. Don't cause trouble here. Sun Weicheng said angrily. Am I causing trouble? You settled our matter a long time ago. How could I still come to you for trouble? Now that you're rich and making a comeback, and you're famous, what? Can you disregard me? Lu Yong squinted and said. Lu Yong, this is the matter between you and Yang Xiaoming. It has nothing to do with me or the company. Sun Weicheng said. Yang Xiaoming was Sun Weicheng's former business partner who had taken away all the company's assets, even borrowing a lot of external debts in the company's name. Sun Weicheng had already paid off these debts, as it was borrowed in the company's name, and he was still the legal representative of the company, so the money had to be repaid by him. He could only blame himself for misjudging people. But the dispute with Lu Yong was the private borrowing between Yang Xiaoming and him. Logically, Sun Weicheng shouldn't be involved. Now that Lu Yong couldn't find Yang Xiaoming, he could only turn to his former company and find Sun Weicheng. He was a well-known local gangster with many followers. These days, there were people causing trouble at Sun Weicheng's company every day, demanding money from Sun Weicheng. Sun Weicheng called the police, they would leave, and when the police left, they would come back. As the saying goes, it's better to offend gentlemen than villains. That's what it meant. Lu Yong was bothering Sun Weicheng persistently, and Sun Weicheng was helpless. He also thought about paying the money back, but Lu Yong not only wanted the 50,000 principal but also demanded a whopping 1 million interest, totaling 1,500,000. Sun Weicheng's mind of settling the matter with money extinguished at this moment. Individuals like Lu Yong, once benefiting from him, would cling like a cat catching the scent of fish, impossible to shake off. Mr. Sun, speaking in such a manner is rather dull. Yang Xiaoming is not only your brother but also a shareholder of your company. Now that you're making a comeback, who knows if the two of you are plotting against me? Lu Yong remarked. In truth, Lu Yong was aware of the incident where Yang Xiaoming embezzled company funds, which was highly unlikely to be fabricated. However, he needed a scapegoat. Otherwise, what would happen to his money? With Sun Weicheng's company suddenly resurging, his gaze shifted towards Sun Weicheng. Lu Yong, do not play the rogue here. Yang Xiaoming has embezzled all of the company's assets. I have already reported it to the authorities, and they have initiated proceedings. You can go and verify if we are plotting against you, Sun Weicheng retorted. I don't care about that. I only care about the money. If you don't pay up, I'll be at your company every day. Let's see who has more time, you or me? Lu Yong declared, casting a glance at the people present. The moment he saw Sun Si, Lu Yong's eyes couldn't detach from her. She was stunning, with an explosive figure. Even though she was seated, her height was unmistakably not less than 1.7 meters. Over the years, he had dallied with numerous women, but none could compare to Sun Si, not even a third of her caliber. His greatest passion in life was women, of all shapes and kinds. The moment he laid eyes on Sun Si, Lu Yong resolved to make her his own. Lu Yong, you're going too far. Sun Weicheng intervened, but Lu Yong ignored him, leaving his side and circling the table to approach Sun Si. Miss, may I know your name? I'm Lu Yong. I'd like to befriend you, Lu Yong addressed Sun Si, who remained silent, albeit visibly nervous. The others present dared not speak out against Lu Yong, for he was a notorious figure in Guangzhou. Anyone who crossed him met a bitter end. Sun Weicheng couldn't even touch him, let alone them. At this juncture, Sun Weicheng slammed the table and pointed at Lu Yong, exclaiming, Lu Yong, you've crossed the line. If you dare to harm my family, I'll make sure you pay dearly. Sun Weicheng was seething. How could he not know Lu Yong's tendencies? The fact that he coveted his daughter was absolutely intolerable. How could he call himself a man if he couldn't even protect his own family? And with his prospective son-in-law Lin Dong standing nearby, he didn't even consider asking for his help. Despite Lin Dong's prestigious lineage, his influence had its limits. This wasn't his family's territory, so his family's hands couldn't reach here, or it would disrupt the order. Ignoring Sun Weicheng's threat, Lu Yong smirked and said, Oh? Family? So, she's your daughter? Mr. Sun, I didn't realize you had such a beautiful daughter. Why didn't you mention it earlier? If you had, we wouldn't have reached this point, would we? As for Lu Yong's mention of threats, Sun Weicheng didn't even take it seriously. Fish die in nets? What right did Sun Weicheng have to say that to him? He was just a somewhat affluent small-time boss, the likes of whom were abundant in Guangzhou. But how many were there like Lu Yong in the entire city? In the underground world of Guangzhou, Lu Yong might not rule the roost entirely, but he was certainly among the top 5. Sun Weicheng was inconsequential to him. He had ways to make the other party submit, unless they wanted to leave Guangzhou altogether, uprooting their entire family. Sun Weicheng took a deep breath and said, Lu Yong, I'll give you the money, as per your request. Please leave immediately. However, Lu Yong remained unmoved, grinning, Mr. Sun, I don't want money now. If you promise me your daughter, I'll ensure your company sails smoothly in Guangzhou, with no obstacles. What do you say? Sun Weicheng was too infuriated to speak. If you continue like this, we'll call the police. Sun Si's mother, Chen Suelian, interjected, preparing to make a call. If you dare to call the police, I guarantee your family's company will never thrive in Guangzhou again. Not only will your company fail, but even your residents will be affected. I'm sure you don't want to wake up every day, opening your door to find a pile of manure outside? Or being splattered with filth by strangers on the street? Lu Yong's tone was menacing. This frightened Chen Sueli, in her hand, previously dialing the phone, halted. She feared her decision might affect her husband's affairs. The people around them were also terrified. For Lu Yong, such acts were not uncommon. He was shrewd, he wouldn't physically harm you but would resort to these despicable means, yet still manage to establish a foothold in Guangzhou. That's more like it. Lu Yong resumed his smile. Lu Yong, tell me, how much money do you want? Sun Weicheng, feeling defeated, slumped into his seat. Lu Yong's threat to his family was what he feared the most. His family was his Achilles heel, and what Lu Yong just mentioned was indeed how he started out. Even if he called the police, there wouldn't be much he could do. At most, he would be detained for a while, but he had many subordinates, rotating them one by one. It was unbearable. Today, Lu Yong chose the perfect time. Otherwise, even if Lu Yong held a knife to his neck, he wouldn't bat an eyelid because he didn't believe Lu Yong would dare to go that far, but now, he had no choice. For the sake of his family, he can only yield, hoping Lu Yong wouldn't demand too much. Mr. Son, as I said earlier, I don't want money now. If you promise your daughter to me, I'll be your son-in-law. I guarantee your future smooth sailing. If there are any hostile companies, just let me know, and I'll take care of them for you. It's impossible. Don't even think about it. Absolutely not. Sun Weicheng roared loudly. Oh? Impossible? Mr. Son, I hope you can still speak so defiantly in 3 days. Lu Yong retorted, reaching out to touch Sun Si's cheek. Miss Sun, please wait for me for 2 days. I believe your father will change his mind. Just as he was about to touch Sun Si's face, a strong hand gripped his own, preventing any further movement. Ha! Lu Yong attempted to touch Sun Si's smooth cheek, only to be firmly restrained by a hand he struggled to move, but the grip was unyielding. Turning his head, he realized it was a young man beside Sun Si who had seized him. Kid! You'd better not meddle in this, or else I'll make sure you regret it. Lu Yong threatened harshly at Lin Dong. Lin Dong remained silent but continued to exert pressure on Lu Yong's hand. Gradually, Lu Yong began to feel uneasy. The pain in his hand intensified, and beads of sweat formed on his forehead. Ah! Stop! Stop! Lu Yong couldn't bear it anymore, crying out in pain. Lu Gu! Lu Gu! Lu Gu! Several subordinates at the door heard Lu Yong's cries and wanted to step forward to help but were stopped by Lu Yong. Don't come over! Lu Yong called out, and they immediately halted. Young man, you're still young. Don't do anything foolish. Release your grip, and today, I'll pretend nothing happened. How about that? Lu Yong stuttered, the pain making it difficult for him to speak clearly. He had to yield, the pain was becoming unbearable, and he even felt like Lin Dong might break his hand. Lin Dong glanced at Lu Yong but remained silent. Was kindness necessary for such a villain as Lu Yong? Certainly not. He increased the pressure on Lu Yong's hand. Lu Yong let out a wretched cry from the intense pain. Ah! It hurts. Big brother, please. Let go. Then, a horrifying sound was heard. Crack! Did Lu Yong's hand just break? Everyone looked at Lin Dong with fear in their eyes. How could this polite young man be so ruthless? He had forcefully broken Lu Yong's hand? Where did he get such strength? What did it feel like to have your hand broken by someone? Lu Yong couldn't even speak anymore due to the pain. His clothes were drenched in sweat. Several subordinates were also intimidated by Lin Dong's actions. Too ruthless. How could this young man be so brutal? They were all frightened. Some people aren't to be trifled with, Lin Dong said calmly. Afterward, he let go of Lu Yong's hand. Lu Yong, clutching his broken hand, crouched on the ground, whimpering weakly. His subordinates rushed forward to help him up. Everyone in the room looked at Lin Dong in shock, but he remained completely indifferent, as if what he had just done was insignificant. A few minutes later, Lu Yong began to recover his strength. Though his hand still hurt, it was much better than before. He glared at Lin Dong fiercely. Kid, I don't care who you are. But you're finished. From now on, none of you will have it easy in Guangzhou, Lu Yong threatened. Lu Yong, right? I'm sitting right here. Let's see how I'm finished. As for Uncle Sun's family, you'd better worry about making it through today before saying such harsh words. Lin Dong's tone remained indifferent, paying no heed to Lu Yong's threats. All right. Just you wait. Lu Yong said, taking out his phone with his other hand to make a call. He wanted someone to come over because, judging from Lin Dong's performance just now, the young man in front of them was obviously not someone they could handle alone. But even if you're powerful, what can you do? As the saying goes, one cannot fight against many hands. Let 50 or 60 people come, and I still won't believe you can beat me. At this moment, Lin Dong also took out his phone and sent a message to the SCC group. Are there any people from Guangzhou, Jiangnan province, in the group? As Lin Dong was already a core member of SCC, his status would be evident in the group. As one of the few core members of SCC, his words naturally attracted the attention of many people. Many low-level, intermediate, and even high-level members wanted to get close to such a big shot, but they lacked the opportunity. Now that the opportunity had arrived, they naturally swarmed in. Soon, several people replied, Boss, I'm in Lucheng, very close to Guangzhou. What do you need? I'll rush over immediately. Boss, I'm in Yuancheng, neighboring Guangzhou. I can also come right away. Many such messages came, at least 7 or 8, mostly from places close to Guangzhou, indicating that they could arrive quickly. This was enough to prove the status of core members in SCC. Although everyone would respond if a high-level member sent such a message, they wouldn't be as eager. At this moment, a message caught Lin Dong's attention. Boss, I'm from Guangzhou, and I'm in Guangzhou right now. Where are you? I'll come over immediately. Lin Dong immediately started a private chat with the person. I'm Lin Dong. I'm currently in room 36 of the Holiday Hotel in Guangzhou. I've encountered some trouble here. Can you help? Of course, boss. Rest assured, there's nothing I can't handle in Guangzhou. Please wait a moment. I can arrive in 20 minutes, no, 15. Good. Hurry up, I'll be waiting here. Kindly await a moment, esteemed gentleman, I shall depart forthwith. Lin Dong set the phone down. Beside him, Sun Si gazed at him, her eyes sparkling. Meanwhile, on the other end of the line, Yan Hong was originally indulging in a foot washing service from young female technicians at a certain foot spa, accompanied by a few friends. Bored, he scrolled through his phone and noticed in the group chat that a distinguished figure was inquiring about anyone in the city of Yangcheng, Jiangnan province. Yangcheng, Jiangnan province? Wasn't he a local there himself? Surprisingly, a core member of SCC was in Yangcheng? Yan Hong promptly replied in the group chat. Soon, the individual contacted him privately. After conversing with Lin Dong, Yan Hong was exhilarated. Though he was a prominent figure in Yangcheng, he was essentially a nouveau riche. Despite controlling over 60% of the city's entertainment venues, he lacked deep connections. He aspired to ascend beyond Yangcheng and integrate into the upper echelons of Jiangnan province. After much effort in leveraging connections, he finally gained entry into SCC, a colossal organization for him. Even the lowest-tier members were of his caliber, while the intermediate and senior members were the bigwigs of provincial cities. He aimed to network with these individuals, but none paid him any heed. Gradually losing patience, he decided to return to his own turf and enjoy his current status. However, now a core member of SCC needed his assistance in Yangcheng? What level was this core member? SCC only had a dozen or so members in total. He had never imagined having the chance to interact with such influential figures. This was undoubtedly a heaven-sent opportunity for him to soar high. He must seize it firmly. As for the trouble Lin Dong mentioned, he didn't care at all. There was nothing in Yangcheng that he couldn't handle. He was already contemplating that once he helped Lin Dong, this SCC core member, resolve the issue, it would be considered an acquaintance. With more interactions, he could gradually align himself with this influential faction. Yan Hong hastily rose to his feet and addressed his accompanying friends, "You guys carry on, I have an urgent matter to attend to momentarily. I must leave now." "Brother Hong. What's the rush? What could make you leave us behind?" one of them inquired. "Yeah. We've finally gathered, and you're leaving? What does that imply?" another chimed in. Feeling somewhat embarrassed, Yen Hong had organized this gathering, and these three were his close friends. However, the matter with Lin Dong required immediate attention, it couldn't be delayed. So, he explained, a core member of SCC encountered some trouble at the Holiday Hotel in Yangchang. I must go there immediately. A core member of SCC? The three were taken aback. Although they weren't SCC members, not because of any lack of desire but due to lack of connections, Yen Hong often boasted about his affiliation with SCC in front of them. Thus, they had some basic understanding of SCC through him. Yen Hong was considered the lowest-ranking member, with intermediate and senior members above him. Core members were already in the leadership tier of SCC, representing a supremely influential presence. According to Yen Hong, there were only a dozen or so core members in SCC, each of them top-tier figures. They promptly rose, eager to accompany Yen Hong and witness the magnificence of the SCC core member. Brother Hong, shall we join you to witness the grandeur of the SCC core member? One of them asked. Yen Hong pondered for a moment before agreeing, all right. We must depart swiftly, we cannot keep the gentleman waiting. The four quickly changed attire and hurriedly drove to the Holiday Hotel. In private room 36 of the Holiday Hotel, people called by Lu Yong had gradually entered. Over 20 people crowded into the room, with some still outside the door, pressing the Sun family into a corner of the room. Two relatively young children were on the verge of tears from fright. The rest wore expressions of concern, they had never witnessed such a scene before. The Sun family looked at Lin Dong, deeply worried. He remained seated, unmoved. After Lu Yong's summoned people had entered, he gained some confidence. You, lad. Weren't you quite formidable earlier? Why so silent now? Come on, show me your prowess again. Let me tell you, you're done for today, I'll make sure of it, Lu Yong said, pointing a finger at Lin Dong's nose with an arrogant expression, his spittle almost reaching Lin Dong's face. Lu Yong, how much money do you want? I'll give it to you, just take your men and leave. Sun Weicheng stood in front of his family, facing Lu Yong. Money? Sun Weicheng, do you think money can resolve today's matter? Let me tell you, don't meddle in this, your turn will come later. Right now, I must deal with this lad. Lu Yong's index finger was already touching Lin Dong's nose. Lin Dong didn't speak, he swiftly grabbed Lu Yong's finger pointing at him and forcefully bent it backward. Crack! Another sound reverberated throughout the room. Ah! Lu Yong screamed in pain instantly. Lin Dong's speed was too quick, before anyone could react, Lu Yong's index finger had been broken again. At this moment, the more than 20 of Lu Yong's lackeys in the vicinity finally realized the situation and were preparing to rush up to attack Lin Dong. A voice came from outside the door. Let's see who dares to move. Hearing this voice, everyone preparing to act froze in place. Yen Hong, accompanied by his three friends, walked in from outside the door. Lu Yong was still writhing on the ground, both of his hands now fractured, tears streaming down his face from the pain. Amidst his own cries, he seemed to have missed Yen Hong's voice entirely. Surrounding Lu Yong, his lackeys instinctively lowered their heads. They hadn't anticipated Yen Hong's sudden appearance here. Who was Yen Hong? He was the overlord of Yangchang, known as Lord Hong. People like Lu Yong weren't even worthy of Yen Hong's shoes, let alone his lackeys. Offending Yen Hong in Yangchang could lead to an unknown fate. Are you Mr. Lin? Yen Hong respectfully inquired, bowing towards Lin Dong. I am Lin Dong. And you are Yen Hong? Lin Dong replied. Because the names in the SCC group chat were their real names, Lin Dong had seen Yen Hong's name during their private chat. Glancing up at Yen Hong, who appeared to be in his 40s, with a formidable demeanor, his status in Yangchang was undoubtedly high. Yes. I am indeed Yen Hong hastily answered. He dared not show any disrespect to Lin Dong, despite Lin Dong's youthful appearance. To enter the core of SCC at such a young age, didn't it illustrate Lin Dong's extremely profound background? He dreamed of aligning himself with such super-elite science. Look at the person on the ground. Do you know him? He just said he would kill me. Lin Dong pointed at Lu Yong, who was still groaning. Yen Hong looked at the man on the ground. Wasn't this Lu Yong? This man, who had risen through underhanded means over the years, was said to command dozens of subordinates. Yen Hong walked over and kicked Lu Yong, saying calmly, "Stop howling, get up. Otherwise, you'll really be dead in a moment." Although Yen Hong's tone was casual, it sent chills down the spines of all of Lu Yong's lackeys present. Get up quickly, or you'll really be dead in a moment. Coming from Yen Hong, why did it sound so terrifying? Enduring the intense pain, Lu Yong looked up at Yen Hong. One glance almost made him faint. Lord Hong? Get up! Yen Hong commanded. Yes. I'll get up right away. Lu Yong quickly endured the pain and got up from the ground. Apologize to Mr. Lin. Mr. Lin? Lu Yong looked at Lin Dong hesitantly. Yen Hong kicked Lu Yong's knee, causing him to kneel directly in front of Lin Dong. Apologize to Mr. Lin. If Mr. Lin forgives you, today's matter will be over. If not, you know the consequences. Yen Hong said to Lu Yong, who was kneeling in front of Lin Dong. Hearing Yen Hong's words, even if he was stupid, Lu Yong knew he had offended someone he couldn't afford to offend today. Even the overlord of Yangchang, Lord Hong, had to call Lin Dong Mr. Lin. How powerful was this Mr. Lin's background? Mr. Lin. I'm sorry. It was my mistake, and I offended you. Please forgive me. Lu Yong apologized while kowtowing to Lin Dong. Thud, thud, thud. He didn't dare to kowtow lightly. Each knock was forceful, making a loud sound as his head hit the floor. If he couldn't gain Lin Dong's forgiveness today, whether he could leave Yangchang was uncertain. Yen Hong watched Lu Yong kowtowing in front of Lin Dong, the loud knocks reverberating through the room. He casually glanced at the other people in the room. This glance was enough to frighten the more than 20 lackeys of Lu Yong. They hurriedly knelt down, one by one, and began to kowtow to Lin Dong. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of knocking echoed in the private room. The Sun family was stunned by the sudden change. Lu Yong, who had just been fierce and menacing, was now kneeling on the ground like a dog, begging for Lin Dong's forgiveness. They were utterly shocked, their jaws almost dropping to the floor. Uncle Sun, how should we handle Lu Yong? Lin Dong turned to Sun Weicheng and asked. Mr. Lin, it's up to you to decide. Sun Weicheng replied somewhat awkwardly. He had originally intended to call Lin Dong, but considering that even Yen Hong had to address Lin Dong as Mr. Lin, he dared not call Lin Dong casually anymore. Yen Hong was not someone Lu Yong could compare with. Offending Yen Hong in Yangchang would practically sever one's own path, leaving no chance for even a struggle. Was it appropriate to call Lin Dong Mr. Lin? After all, Lin Dong was his daughter's boyfriend. Which father-in-law would address his son-in-law as Mr. Uncle Sun, don't be so formal. Since C and I are good friends, you can just call me Lin Dong. Yen Hong's three friends observed Lin Dong from behind. Originally, they had come to witness the demeanor of a top-notch tycoon, but now they felt that this top-notch tycoon didn't seem extraordinary at all. Wasn't he just like them? Had they returned to their primitive selves because they hadn't seen such a character before? Lin Dong casually stood up, his foot stepping on Lu Yong's already fractured hand. As his immense spiritual power was released in an instant. In that moment, everyone in the room felt a cold wind blow through, and their bodies shivered involuntarily. Under the dual torment of physical and mental pressure, Lu Yong didn't even utter a sound, he just fainted. Actually, this is entirely due to Lin Dong's recent joining of SCC and his lack of sufficient understanding of SCC that such thoughts arise. The status of SCC core members may differ from that of intermediate and senior members. For Yen Hong, a junior member, it is entirely sufficient to be deterred. He simply cannot conceive of any other thoughts. Yen Hong, that person is my uncle, the father of my good friend. In the future, we'll still need your care here in Yangchang. Lin Dong pointed to Sun Weicheng and Yen Hong. From what can be seen now, Yen Hong's status in Yangchang should not be low. With him taking care of Sun Weicheng's family, they should be able to live quite well. Young Master Lin, rest assured, from now on, your uncle's affairs will be my affairs. I cannot guarantee elsewhere, but in Yangchang, Yen guarantees smooth sailing for him. Yen Hong pledged, pounding his chest. Being on good terms with Lin Dong was something he eagerly sought. Moreover, in Yangchang, taking care of anyone he wished was just a matter of words. Very well. Yen Hong, I'll remember you. Feel free to contact me anytime in the future. Lin Dong patted Yen Hong's shoulder and said. Yes, young Master Lin. Yen Hong replied excitedly. Uncle Sun, let's go. I'll leave Yen Hong in charge here. Lin Dong shouted to Sun Weicheng's family. After saying that, Lin Dong took the lead and walked out, with Sun Weiqing's family quickly following. As they stepped out into the corridor, they saw a row of people kneeling, all of them Lu Yong's henchmen whom he had called over, now trembling on the ground. They were not afraid of Lin Dong, he was still too distant for them. They feared Yan Hong. The reputation of being the overlord of Yangchang was not just a name, it was earned through real actions. Exiting the holiday hotel, Lin Dong expressed his desire to return to Jiangchang. It wasn't too far from here to Jiangcheng, just over 2 hours away. Leaving now, they would still arrive in Jiangcheng early. Sun Weiqing's family wanted Lin Dong to stay overnight, wanting more interaction with the so-called young master of Yangcheng. While cultivating relationships, they also wanted to eliminate the disrespect towards Lin Dong at noon, especially from those who had mocked him. If they had known Lin Dong's influence was so great, they would have flattered him earlier, rather than looking down on him. After what had just happened, Lin Dong's determination had grown stronger, and they were now somewhat afraid to approach him, so they could only look to Sun Si. Sun Weiqing also discreetly tugged at Sun Si's clothes, indicating she should persuade Lin Dong to stay. Lin Dong was already preparing to open the car door and get in. "Lin Dong!" Sun Si called out. Lin Dong turned to look at Sun Si. "Can you stay overnight?" Sun Si looked at Lin Dong expectantly. Lin Dong originally wanted to refuse, but looking at Sun Si's charming and hopeful expression, he couldn't bring himself to do it. His old problem had resurfaced. For such a good relationship and a beautiful woman who was good to him, he truly felt awkward to refuse. Of course, this doesn't mean that Lin Dong was a philanderer. On the contrary, despite being surrounded by so many excellent beauties since breaking up with Jiang Shan, he hadn't entered into any substantial relationship so far. The most recent one was with Han Shiyun. If it hadn't been for what happened that night, something might have actually happened. But that was because Han Shiyun had insulted his dignity as a man, which provoked him despite knowing she was using psychological tactics. Lin Dong believed that enemies should be dealt with ruthlessly, but as for friends, a little softness was fine. "Well, all right. But I'll have to leave early tomorrow morning. I have things to attend to back home." Lin Dong hesitated for a moment before saying, "Okay." Sun Si ran over happily and took Lin Dong's arm. Lin Dong's staying made Sun Weiqing's family very happy. Several younger children wanted to ride in Lin Dong's car. The temptation of a top-tier sports car was quite strong for them, but they were stopped by their parents. They weren't surprised that Lin Dong could drive such a supercar, it was only fitting for him, the top young master. However, they regretted why they hadn't realized it earlier. If Lin Dong had arrived with such a car from the beginning, why would anyone have looked down on him? In this way, Lin Dong, accompanied by Sun Si, returned with the group to Sun Si's home. Lin Dong and Sun Weiqing's family left. In private room No. 36 of the holiday hotel, Yan Hong and his 3 friends remained, along with the unconscious Lu Yong and his dozens of henchmen kneeling on the ground. "How does it feel?" Yan Hong asked the 3 of them. "At first, I didn't feel much, but just as he stood up, I felt as if I was facing a mountain. The pressure was intense." "Me too. Just then, I felt a cool breeze pass by. This young master seems quite extraordinary. Anyone who can become a core member of SCC is not a simple person. Let's not speculate randomly. Let's clean up this mess first. Brother Hong. If we really get involved with this big shot, don't forget about us, brothers. Don't worry. If we do get involved, I won't forget about you guys." Yan Hong said. From the pressure Lin Dong suddenly released just now, it seemed he had called Yan Hong here because he was afraid of dirtying his hands with someone like Lu Yong. The next morning, Lin Dong had breakfast and left for Jiangcheng. Sun Si wanted to rest at home for a day before returning, so Lin Dong traveled alone. There were no scenes of beautiful women throwing themselves at him last night. Apart from Sun Si and her relatives complimenting Lin Dong, nothing else happened until late at night when they left. Time passed day by day. Yan Hong and his 3 friends, standing behind him, also stiffened. They exchanged glances, seeing the horror in each other's eyes. In that moment, Lin Dong displayed the aura of a top-tier tycoon. Only those who had long been in high positions could release such pressure, as if a mountain were pressing down on them. Lin Dong only released his spiritual power for an instant. His main goal was to intimidate. He was afraid that his position as a core member of SCC wouldn't be enough to deter Yan Hong, so he had to put on this act. After all, the Sun family still had to live in Yangcheng. Since he had to help, he might as well help thoroughly. 3 days later. Lin Dong finally received a call from Zhao Xian, saying she had identified a promising project. According to her team's investigation, it had significant investment value, but the other party's asking price was a bit high, so she wanted to seek Lin Dong's opinion. Without hesitation, Lin Dong immediately wired the money. He had no opinion whatsoever. In fact, he hoped the other party would ask for an even higher price. He felt he didn't have many places to spend money. Spending money casually wouldn't make him any more impressive. He had only used 2 billion to prepare 2 sets of houses for his aunt and his elder aunt, and he hadn't even paid 1 billion of it yet. Moreover, he felt he didn't have the ability to protect the assets he owned, so he had always kept a low profile in terms of power. He was just getting started, still in the process of building it up, far behind people like Zhao Shidao and Zhuge Zhengxiong from the Tea Party. He wasn't even a match for Qin Zhang and Lu Chen. In terms of strength, Pa Jun had said he was only the most formidable among the younger generation he had seen, which meant there were still many older ones who could defeat him. So, he wanted to cultivate his own power. His ideal was that one day, out of the top 1,000 companies in the world, he would own shares in 800 of them. Then, with a wave of his hand, the global economy would tremble. How awesome! How domineering! As for why he chose Zhao Xian for such an important position. Firstly, because she was originally a loser, with no one around her having such abilities from their interactions, it seemed Zhao Xian valued him quite a bit. She had the ability. And she had integrity. Another reason was that through Zhao Xian's family members seeking her out, he had learned some things about Zhao Xian. She was definitely someone who repaid kindness. Even though her parents had been strict with her since childhood, she still thought of her family after earning money. Apart from maintaining her own life, she had hardly saved a penny in all her years of work. For Lin Dong, ability was secondary because he didn't care about making money, he already had more than enough. Integrity was the most important thing. No matter how capable someone was, Lin Dong wouldn't want them if they had bad character. So, ultimately, what he saw in Zhao Xian was her integrity. Someone like Zhao Xian, Lin Dong dared to guarantee that as long as she had enough money, she would continue to help her family, in whatever way she deemed fit. When he first got the system, Lin Dong had secretly decided not to reveal his full strength until he felt he could protect himself. Keeping a low profile was the way to go. It was his secret weapon for winning unexpectedly. What he needed to do now was to work hard to accumulate godlike points and see if the system would upgrade. His extreme physique and mental strength were definitely not enough. After giving Zhao Xian 20 billion in funds, his godlike points didn't immediately increase. It wasn't until the next day that they increased by 20 points, bringing the total to 101 points. This also confirmed Lin Dong's idea. In the super godlike system, money had to be spent to increase godlike points. Donating or using these roundabout methods wouldn't increase them. Otherwise, Lin Dong could directly transfer 10 trillion to his company account. Wouldn't that be wonderful? This system was quite simple, actually. It just required Lin Dong to spend money, then increase his godlike points to enhance himself. Meanwhile, Lin Dong had also established a security department, having Xiao Pejun contact some mercenaries he had met abroad, both domestic and foreign. As long as they were willing to come, they would receive preferential treatment. But the prerequisite was that their character must pass. Lin Dong absolutely refused to accept people who were beyond redemption, forced to flee abroad to become mercenaries. He had also instructed Wei Yong and Li Guobing to help Xiao Pejun get the security department up and running. With his current strength, there shouldn't be many people who could threaten him. If even he couldn't handle it, Wei Yong and Li Guobing would be sent as cannon fodder. Because he had been busy these days, Lin Dong hadn't gone to school. His class teacher called him to tell him to come back to class. Lin Dong was puzzled. Didn't they say after the May Day party, they could take leave as they pleased? It turned out that someone had gone directly to the school leaders, saying Lin Dong often skipped classes, which was not like a student at all. It was affecting the reputation of Jiangda, and even the class teacher was scolded by the school leaders. After receiving the class teacher's call, Lin Dong went straight to the principal's office. Knock, knock. Lin Dong knocked on the door twice. Come in. A stern voice came from inside the room. Lin Dong pushed the door open and saw Principal Zhou Liming sitting at his desk, flipping through some documents. After Lin Dong entered, Zhou Liming glanced at him and said, "What's the matter, young man?" "Hello, Principal Zhou, I'm a third-year student majoring in business administration. My name is Lin Dong." Lin Dong sat directly across from Zhou Liming and said, Got it. What's next?" Zhou Liming asked. He felt this student, Lin Dong, was somewhat different. The students he had encountered in the past were usually timid and nervous when they saw him. Lin Dong's demeanor was too casual, which made him feel a bit surprised. Exchange code 7 6 2 1 4 1 9 4 9. The protagonist's strength is gradually growing. Everyone please be patient. Next, we'll slowly enter the big plotline, with Zhao Shidao's and Zhu Sanxiong's peak showdown, Mu Rongqingda appearing. How will the protagonist continue to act cool? Principal Zhou, I may need to take leave at any time due to some business outside of school, so I hope you can grant me this privilege. Lin Dong said. Oh? You want the privilege to take leave at any time? Can you tell me why? Zhou Liming smiled and asked. He was curious why Lin Dong dared to come to him, the principal, and make such a request. Moreover, it seemed like Lin Dong was certain that he would agree. Because I'm doing some business outside of school, so I might be quite busy. Business? Lin Dong, our school supports college students' entrepreneurship as long as you submit the relevant materials to the school. After the school's investigation, and if there are no issues, we can give you the green light. But I don't want to apply, so I came directly to you. Lin Dong said. Oh? So, Lin Dong, do you think I will agree? I believe you won't refuse, Principal Zhou. Reason? Zhou Liming asked. Because I plan to donate 1 billion to Jiangda. 50 million will be used to establish a scholarship fund for poor students with excellent academic performance, and the other 50 million will be used to improve various facilities in the school. What do you think, Principal Zhou? Lin Dong smiled. Upon hearing Lin Dong's words, Zhou Liming was visibly surprised. Donate 1 billion to Jiangda? This was unprecedented in the many years since Jiangda was founded. Not to mention Jiangda, even among the well-known universities nationwide, there had never been such a precedent. Jiangda could at least rank in the top 10 among well-known universities nationwide. Over the years, it had produced many celebrities in various fields, and donations were frequent, but most of them were in amounts ranging from several million to tens of million. The largest donation Jiangda had ever received was from a student who graduated many years ago and had now become a business tycoon, worth billions. But even he had only donated 20 million. Now, a third-year student at Jiangda claimed to want to donate 1 billion to the school? Who would believe that? To be honest, even Zhou Liming himself found it hard to believe. In his opinion, Lin Dong was probably here to tease him. Lin Dong, are you sure you want to donate 1 billion to the school? Are you not joking with me? Zhou Liming sat up straight and asked, of course. Otherwise, why would I come to you, Principal? Just for a chat? If I wanted to chat, I'd find some female students to chat with, wouldn't I? Lin Dong said with a smile. Zhou Liming scrutinized Lin Dong carefully. There was no trace of the usual timidity that students showed when they saw him. Instead, Lin Dong exhibited a kind of carefree attitude, indicating he wasn't afraid of him. Was he from a prestigious family? Quite possible. A third-year student at the university being able to make 1 billion from a business? He definitely didn't believe it. Moreover, Lin Dong was donating 1 billion. If it was true, how much money did he have? 10 billion? Or 100 billion? If Lin Dong wasn't joking with him, then he was undoubtedly from a wealthy family. And if the school could receive an additional 1 billion in funding, they could do a lot of things. Maybe they could even attract a few top scorers from other provinces with hefty scholarships. This would be very helpful for the school's improvement. His lifelong dream was to elevate Jiangda to one of the top 3 universities in the country. Well then, Lin Dong, if you're really going to donate 1 billion to the school as you said, I'll grant you this privilege. I'll also thank you for your contribution to Jiangda. But if you're joking with me, then don't blame me for being strictly professional. Okay, Principal Zhou, let's settle it like this. However, I hope my donation can be anonymous. I don't want to be like a monkey attracting attention everywhere on campus. No problem. With that, Zhou Liming took Lin Dong to the school's finance office and called in various school leaders. Until the donation of 1 billion was completed, the school leaders of Jiangda felt like they were dreaming. Never before had there been such a large donation. Lin Dong's name also made it onto their list. He was definitely a wealthy person, and they should avoid offending him if possible. Lin Dong, thank you for your contribution to the development of Jiangda. On behalf of all the teachers and students of the school, I sincerely thank you. Principal Zhou Limin shook Lin Dong's hand tightly. A donation of 1 billion was definitely breaking new ground. Lin Dong, still a student, didn't want to become famous and be stared at everywhere on campus. When he graduated, he could publicize this matter. By then, it would further enhance the school's reputation. A third-year student, making so much money from entrepreneurship and donating 1 billion directly to the school, how strong his sense of belonging must be to do this? And the fact that a third-year student could make so much money from entrepreneurship was proof of the effectiveness of the school's educational philosophy. Zhou Limin was ecstatic. Not only could the school benefit from this, but it could also increase its visibility, attracting more students. It was like killing two birds with one stone. Principal Zhou, you're too kind. Jiangda is also my alma mater, the place that nurtured me into who I am today. Being able to contribute to Jiangda, I believe every student would do the same. Lin Dong replied politely. Then, he shook hands and exchanged thanks with various school leaders one by one. Because Lin Dong didn't want to attract attention, the school didn't hold any donation ceremonies. After donating the money, Lin Dong left the school and continued to take leave. School was not very important to him now. Furthermore, possessing an extraordinary mental fortitude, he grasped new concepts with remarkable swiftness, feeling assured that he would not fail any subjects. Attending the crucial classes was sufficient. Even if he were to fail, he harbored the belief that the school would ensure his success. In the blink of an eye, the weekend arrived. After half a month of recuperation, Lu Yanmei's health had nearly fully recovered. This weekend, they planned to return to Shuqing together to transport some necessary items. Lin Dong also intended to pick up his aunt's family, persuading them to move to Jiangchang and retrieving his parents' compensation along the way. Prioritizing the arrangements for his family members, Lin Dong felt that only then could he wholeheartedly pursue his own affairs. Wang Li had returned to school half a month ago, with Lu Yanmei's family of 3, Lin Dong, Wei Yong, and Li Guobing, 2 drivers. The group of 6 set off for Shuqing on Friday evening. Lin Dong had purchased another Mercedes-Benz G-Class, with Wei Yong and Li Guobing each driving a vehicle. For these former mercenaries, staying awake for a few days posed no issue at all, let alone driving for several hours. They departed at 6 in the evening, arriving in Shuqing at midnight. After dropping off his aunt's family at home, Lin Dong and Li Guobing's group of 3 checked into a hotel in the county town. Initially, Lu Yanmei wanted Lin Dong to stay at home, considering he had lived there for 2 years. However, Lin Dong now felt that both he and Wang Chao had grown up and deserved their privacy. It would be more comfortable to live alone rather than feeling awkward sharing a room with Wang Chao. Staying in Wang Li's room seemed inappropriate as well. Hence, he insisted on leaving with Wei Yong's group. Before leaving, Lin Dong obtained the agreement bearing the name of his uncle, Lin Guobang. Xiaodong, considering your capabilities, that compensation is trivial to you. However, your aunt understands your grievances. Lin Guobang indeed acted improperly in some matters, but ultimately, he is your uncle who raised you for several years. Your aunt hopes you won't be too harsh, Lu Yanmei earnestly remarked as she handed the agreement to Lin Dong. I understand, Auntie. I just want to reclaim what rightfully belongs to me, Lin Dong replied. Auntie believes in you. Go ahead. If you want to sue, go ahead. We're not afraid. Anyway, the money is already spent, Zhang Guifang said nonchalantly. But you should consider this carefully. With this evidence and the court's records, the outcome is practically certain. Then you'll be labeled as debtors, not only freezing your assets but also affecting Lin Fei's job, Lin Dong said with a smile. As Lin Dong knew, Lin Fei, his cousin, worked at a bank in Shuqing, a position Lin Guobang had painstakingly arranged for her. If they were all labeled as debtors, it would seriously affect Lin Fei's job. This realization sent shivers down Lin Guobang's family's spines. Lin Fei's job, secured through their connections, had given them much face. If this incident affected her job, it would be a serious matter. Lin Fei was also worried. Reputation was paramount in a bank, and if her parents were labeled as debtors, it could indeed affect her. She had flaunted her job in the bank among her friends and classmates. If she lost it, how would she face them? With these thoughts, Lin Fei looked at her parents with some reproach. Lin Dong, don't you dare mess around. I'm telling you, if you dare to affect Feifei's job, I won't spare you. Lin Guobang threatened. Lin Dong had been beaten by him since childhood, so much so that even after he started high school, he still felt intimidated by him. Although he didn't know why Lin Dong dared to come for money today, Lin Guobang felt psychologically superior to him. Lin Guobang, what do you mean by not sparing me? I'd like to know, will you chase me around like you used to, beating me until I run all over the courtyard? You can try now. Lin Dong said, his smile fading into seriousness. Lin Dong's words reminded him of his miserable childhood. Whenever Lin Quan made a mistake, it was pushed onto Lin Dong, and he was the one beaten. Even when they were in a bad mood, they would take it out on him. They would beat him with thin rods, leaving him covered in bruises, and it hurt terribly. It wasn't until junior high school, when he asked to live on campus, that it got a bit better. From then on, he rarely came back during holidays, mostly alternating between his aunt's and his elder aunt's houses. It wasn't until high school that he moved to his aunt's house permanently, leaving behind the shadows of that traumatizing home. As Lin Dong spoke, his smile turned serious, instantly putting pressure on Lin Guobang's family. They looked at him in astonishment. Although they hadn't seen Lin Dong for a long time, they still saw him as someone who always obeyed. When they saw Lin Guobang and his wife, it was like mice meeting a cat, especially when they saw Lin Fei and Lin Quan. They were cautious. Years of abuse had left Lin Dong with psychological scars, making him submissive to Lin Guobang and his wife. Lin Dong never dared to refute them before, enduring beatings whenever he dared to argue. Seeing Lin Dong come to ask for money today, they naturally put him into their old impression. Even with two people beside Lin Dong, they didn't take him seriously. They didn't believe that Lin Dong, who used to be so timid, would dare to do anything to them. But now, Lin Dong not only dared to retort but also spoke with sarcasm, which Lin Guobang couldn't accept. His face couldn't hold up under such pressure. So, he forcefully slapped the coffee table in front of him, stood up, and pointed at Lin Dong, saying, "Lin Dong, just because your wings are stronger now, don't think I won't dare to beat you. Did I name you Lin Guobang? I'm your uncle, your guardian. When you were a child, I dared to chase you around the courtyard, and now it's the same." At this time, Lin Quan also looked at Lin Dong with an unfriendly expression. Growing up with Lin Dong, he was only a year younger than Lin Dong. With the help of his parents, he often bullied Lin Dong. He always pushed everything onto Lin Dong, making him take the blame and bear the beatings for him. He had a natural psychological advantage over Lin Dong. Now that he was 20 years old, after graduating from high school without entering university, he had been wandering in society, meeting all sorts of people, which made him feel even more superior. Now Lin Dong dared to come to their home to ask for money and even dared to taunt them. That money was something his mother had said was for him to use when he got married in the future, and it had nothing to do with Lin Dong. "Lin Dong, if you disrespect my father again, call him Lin Guobang. Lin Guobang, don't blame me for being impolite to you." Lin Quan also interjected. Lin Dong turned his head to look at Lin Quan, his voice calm as he said, "Lin Quan, hold off for a moment. I'll settle accounts with you later." "Damn! How dare you talk to me like that? I think you're itching for a beating," Lin Quan said, suddenly standing up from the sofa, wanting to rush over to hit Lin Dong. However, as soon as Lin Quan stood up, he was pressed back onto the sofa by a big hand, unable to move. "Damn it, who do you think you are? If you don't let go, I'll make sure you can't leave Shucheng." Lin Quan struggled desperately, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the strength of this big hand. For Lin Quan's swearing, Li Guobing said nothing, just exerted a little more force on Lin Quan's hand. Lin Quan immediately felt a little suffocated. He couldn't even swear properly and could only wave his hand in the air. Li Guobing was once a mercenary abroad. Dealing with small thugs like Lin Quan naturally didn't require much effort. Seeing Lin Quan pinned to the sofa and unable to move, Zhang Guifang sat next to him and immediately stood up, wanting to help. However, Wei Yong's sudden appearance in front of her, accompanied by a forceful push, resulted in her being forcefully pushed down onto the sofa. Witnessing such a scene, Lin Guobang couldn't stand idle any longer. Rising from his seat, he sought for tools. How could he tolerate seeing both his wife and son being bullied? Where could he possibly hide his face now? "Lin Guobang, you'd better remain seated and still. These two individuals have served as mercenaries abroad, experienced the baptism of war, and bear the mark of true bloodshed on their hands. Do you think you stand a chance against them in combat?" Lin Dong addressed Lin Guobang with a gaze of determination. As Lin Guobang prepared to fetch tools, he paused upon hearing Lin Dong's voice, turning to gaze at Wei Yong and Li Guobing. At this moment, Wei Yong and Li Guobing also appropriately released some of the bloodthirstiness cultivated on the battlefield. Instantly, the Lin family of four felt a chill run down their spines, their gazes towards the two filled with fear. Being ordinary individuals, the Lin family couldn't possibly resist the aura exuded by experts like Wei Yong and Li Guobing, who had undergone the baptism of war. Lin Guobang slumped down despondently, asking, "Lin Dong, what exactly do you intend to do?" "I simply wish to retrieve what rightfully belongs to me. Hand over the compensation my parents deserve. As for this house, consider it as your home for a few years. Do you not have an ounce of gratitude for sparing my life back then? Had you been more ruthless, perhaps there would be no Lin Dong standing before you today." Lin Dong's words dripped with sarcasm. "We have no money. But our lives are not something to be trifled with. I don't believe you'd dare to harm us." Zhang Guifang retorted fiercely. This money was intended to help her son, Lin Quan, get married and buy a house. If it went to Lin Dong, and given that Lin Quan still didn't have a job, what would become of him? Moreover, the interest on this compensation was considerable each year. Without this money, their family's future would be bleak. Hence, giving the money to Lin Dong was absolutely out of the question. Lin Guobang had almost agreed, considering the overwhelming situation and the intimidating companions accompanying Lin Dong. However, upon hearing Zhang Guifang's words, he immediately had a realization. Indeed. Even if they didn't give money to Lin Dong, what could he possibly do to them? Even if the other party had been mercenaries abroad, what could they do here? Would they dare to commit murder? "Lin Dong, the money has already been spent whether you want it or not. I, as your second uncle and legal guardian, have the authority to handle this money," Lin Guobang asserted. Lin Dong couldn't help but smirk. Second uncle? Legal guardian? Lin Guobang, do you even understand the role of a legal guardian? Are you qualified? Besides, even if you were my legal guardian, I'm already an adult now. Your status as my guardian has long ceased to exist. As for whether you have money or not, I don't care. It's clearly stated in the agreement, which you also signed, that this money would be given to me when I turned 18. I won't even ask for the interest. I have no money. Lin Guobang insisted firmly. Very well. I've already hired the best lawyer in Zhangcheng. They should be on their way now. I reckon you'll receive a subpoena from the court this afternoon. Think it over carefully, Lin Dong stated. Lin Guobang found himself at a loss for words. Giving the money meant jeopardizing his son Lin Quan's future life. Refusing to give the money might lead to being sued by Lin Dong. With the evidence Lin Dong possessed, they would likely lose, and it would potentially affect Lin Fei's job. It was a dilemma for Lin Guobang and Zhang Guifang. The living room fell into silence for a while. Lin Dong didn't rush them, remaining leisurely seated as if waiting for their decision. Lin Dong, whether you want the money or not, you can go ahead and sue wherever you wish. Even if the verdict is against us, we don't have any money. Otherwise, you could just kill me. In the end, Zhang Guifang made a decision. By saying this, she essentially chose the money, sacrificing her daughter Lin Fei's future prospects. Lin Guobang breathed a sigh of relief. Since Zhang Guifang had made the decision, then so be it. Mom! How could you? Lin Fei looked at Zhang Guifang with teary eyes, but Zhang Guifang didn't respond. After all, daughters would eventually marry and leave, while sons were the ones to support them in their old age. Therefore, choosing the money was the obvious choice. Since you've decided not to give the money, then wait for the subpoena from the court this afternoon. I don't want to waste any more words with you, Lin Dong said indifferently. Lin Guobang and his wife's decision was actually within Lin Dong's expectations, so he wasn't very surprised. He had already anticipated this outcome, which is why he had contacted the lawyer in advance and had them hurry over. Now, on to another matter, Lin Dong said as he stood up and walked over to Lin Quan and Li Guobing. Li Guobing, who had originally held Lin Quan's chest, directly grabbed his clothes and lifted him up from the sofa. Lin Quan had already been scared into weakness. Most of Li Guobing's bloodthirsty aura was directed at him, a small-time hooligan from a county-level city. Although he had been in a few fights, how could he withstand the aura of an expert like Li Guobing? Lin Quan, I don't want to dwell on the past, but you dared to touch my aunt? I'll settle this score with you properly. Lin Dong, if you have the guts, call someone for me. I guarantee you won't be able to leave Shuqing alive, Lin Quan said weakly. At this point, he was still threatening Lin Dong, thinking that knowing a few people in Shuqing would allow him to do as he pleased. Smack! Lin Dong delivered a slap to Lin Quan's face. Although not exerting much force, Lin Dong's current physical prowess far surpassed that of an average person. Instantly, Lin Quan's face swelled up, with traces of blood trickling from the corners of his mouth. Lin Dong, cease this recklessness. What you're doing is illegal. Lin Guobang shouted from the side. Oh? Now you're concerned about legality? Then isn't withholding my parents' compensation also illegal? Lin Dong retorted. Seeing her son's face swollen from Lin Dong's slap, Zhang Guifang took out her phone to report to the authorities. However, Wei Yong snatched it away and threw it to the ground. Smack! Ignoring the others, Lin Dong delivered another slap to Lin Quan's face, causing both sides of his face to swell up like a pig's head. Lin Quan couldn't help but shed tears from the pain. It hurt too much. Lin Guobang and Zhang Guifang felt extremely distressed watching this, but they were powerless. They were at the mercy of others now. Come on. Say a few more tough words for me to hear. Lin Dong demanded. Tears streaming down his face, Lin Quan remained silent. What's the matter? Lost your nerve? Then tell me, why did you lay a hand on my aunt? Lin Dong continued to press. Still, Lin Quan remained silent. Speak. Lin Dong roared. The Lin family trembled in fear at Lin Dong's outburst. I didn't hit her. I just lightly pushed her a couple of times. Lin Quan stuttered. He was genuinely terrified now. After 2 or 3 years of separation, Lin Dong seemed like a different person altogether. He had become someone who instilled both fear and dread in him. Just lightly pushed her a couple of times? Then how did she injure her back and couldn't get out of bed for half a month? Lin Dong's eyes flashed with coldness as he questioned Lin Quan. I don't know. Lin Quan stammered. Don't know? Lin Dong grabbed Lin Quan's chin. I really don't know. Lin Dong, I was wrong. Please spare me. Lin Quan cried. Lin Quan begged for mercy. He truly had no other choice. The pressure from Lin Dong was just too much for him now. Lin Dong chuckled, then released Lin Quan. Li Guobing also let go of him. Lin Quan slumped back onto the sofa, gasping for air heavily. Turning to Lin Guobang, Lin Dong said, Lin Guobang, to be honest, I don't really care about this money initially, I wasn't even planning to pursue it. But since Lin Quan dared to harm my aunt, blame him. Remember to transfer the money soon. If you can manage to do so. By this afternoon, the court will freeze all the assets under your family's name. See you in court. With that, Lin Dong left the living room, followed by Li Guobing and Wei Yong. In the living room, the Lin family stared at each other, exchanging looks of shock. More than 2 years had passed, and the previously submissive Lin Dong had now become so formidable and dominant. This sudden change in status was difficult for them to accept. What do we do now? Zhang Guifang asked, visibly shaken by Lin Dong's demeanor. She, too, was greatly intimidated by Lin Dong. Let's go. Quickly borrow a card from your parents. We need to transfer the money as soon as possible, or else our assets will be frozen. Lin Guobang hurriedly suggested. The family rushed to Zhang Guifang's parents' place. Lin Quan didn't even care about the injury on his face anymore. As long as the money was safe, a little injury didn't matter. Over the years, the Lin family had been living quite comfortably thanks to the 2 million compensation from Lin Dong's parents. They had even rented out Lin Dong's family house. With the annual interest and rent, they didn't need to work. Now, with only that money left, their lives would become difficult if it got frozen. However, when they tried to transfer the money at the bank, they found their accounts frozen and unusable. This was clearly Lin Dong's doing, giving them a glimmer of hope before plunging them into despair. The Lin family caused a scene at the bank, but it was futile. In the end, they were reported to the authorities and taken to the police station. At the police station, they were charged with disturbing public order and faced a 5-day administrative detention. While still at the police station, they received a subpoena from the court, which also ordered the freeze of all their assets. Now the whole family knew they were doomed.